Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you never miss out. Now on with the stories.
So I bought a townhome in an HOA community in Valencia, California. I had a couple of months overlap between the lease ending on my apartment and closing on the townhome. My unit has a 2-car garage, but no real driveway, and it's a corner lot close to the entrance to the community. I moved a lot of my stuff using a U-Haul trailer behind my car, and just parked in front of my garage for a few hours while unloading. It was a pretty hectic time. Moving is always stressful, but I was excited about my new place. I had been living in a cramped apartment for years, and the idea of having a townhome with a garage and a bit more space was thrilling. The community looked nice enough, with well-maintained lawns and a few amenities like a pool and a clubhouse. I thought it would be a great place to settle down. The first thing I did after moving in was to call the HOA to inquire about getting access to the pool and clubhouse. I was looking forward to taking a dip in the pool after a long day of unpacking, but to my surprise I was told it takes 2 months to process a change of ownership. 2 months, and I would get a login to the property management website and access to the shared facilities after that. They were quick to remind me not to forget to pay my HOA dues in the meantime. I thought, that's a bit of a bummer. I tried to be patient. I figured it was just a bureaucratic process, and there wasn't much I could do about it. In the meantime, I focused on getting my new home in order. I spent days unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, and trying to make the place feel like home. It was exhausting, but I was making progress. Then, out of the blue, I received a courtesy citation from the HOA. Apparently, I was blocking a lane while unloading and parking my motorcycle with a cover on it, on the 3 linear feet of driveway that I do have. The citation mentioned something about per the CC&Rs, which I had yet to receive, because I didn't have a login to their website, and they hadn't completed my change of ownership. No welcome letter, just a "you've already effed up" note. Welcome to the community. I was frustrated. I was just trying to move in. It wasn't like I was throwing wild parties or causing a ruckus. I called the HOA again to explain the situation, but they were pretty firm. Rules are rules, they said. I couldn't help but feel a bit unwelcome. It was like they were more interested in enforcing rules than actually helping new residents settle in. As the days went by, I started noticing more about the community. The neighbors were friendly enough, but there was a certain tension in the air. It seemed like everyone was always on edge, worried about violating some HOA rule. I heard stories from other residents about getting citations for the smallest infractions, like leaving a trash can out a few hours too long or having a garden gnome that wasn't HOA approved. One evening, I decided to take a walk around the community to clear my head. The place was beautiful, no doubt about it. The lawns were perfectly manicured, the flower beds were vibrant, and the buildings looked pristine. But there was something sterile about it all. It felt like living in a museum where everything had to be just so, and any deviation was met with swift punishment. I walked past the pool and clubhouse, still off limits to me. I could see families enjoying the pool, kids splashing around, and people lounging on the deck chairs. It looked so inviting, but it was a reminder that I was still an outsider. 2 months, I kept telling myself, just 2 months, and I'd be able to join in. Back at home, I tried to focus on the positives. My townhome was coming together nicely. I had set up my living room with a comfy couch and a big TV. The kitchen was stocked, and I was starting to experiment with cooking new recipes. I even set up a little home office in one of the spare rooms. It was starting to feel like home, despite the rocky start. But the HOA issues kept nagging at me. Every time I parked my car, I was paranoid about getting another citation. I read through the community rules as best as I could without access to the official documents. It was a maze of regulations, and I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells. One day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wrote a letter to the HOA board explaining my situation in detail. I told them about the overlap between my lease and the closing, the challenges of moving, and my eagerness to be a part of the community. I asked for a bit of leniency and understanding while I got settled in. I wasn't sure if it would make a difference, but I had to try. Weeks went by and I didn't hear back. I continued to live my life, cautiously navigating the HOA minefield. I met a few more neighbors, some of whom shared their own horror stories about dealing with the HOA. It seemed like a common theme in the community. People were friendly but wary, always mindful of the rules. One evening as I was sitting on my patio, a neighbor named Tom, not his real name, stopped by. He was an older gentleman, probably in his late 60s, with a kind face and a warm smile. We struck up a conversation, and I shared my frustrations about the HOA. Tom chuckled and nodded. "Yeah, they can be a real pain," he said. "I've been here for 10 years and I've had my fair share of run-ins with them. But you learn to navigate it. Just keep your head down, follow the rules, and eventually you'll get the hang of it." His words were comforting, but they also reinforced the reality of living in an HOA community. It was a delicate balance of enjoying the amenities and maintaining a low profile to avoid trouble. I thanked Tom for his advice, and we chatted for a while longer before he headed home. As the weeks turned into months, I slowly started to find my rhythm. I finally got access to the property management website and the shared facilities. The pool was as refreshing as I had imagined, and the clubhouse was a great place to meet other residents. But the initial sting of the HOA's harsh welcome never quite faded. I learned to be meticulous about following the rules. I parked my car exactly where it was supposed to be, kept my motorcycle in the garage, and made sure my trash cans were out of sight. It was a bit exhausting, but I didn't want to risk another citation. Despite the challenges, I started to appreciate the community more. The amenities were top-notch, and the location was convenient. I was close to shopping centers, restaurants, and parks. The neighborhood was safe, and the residents were generally friendly once you got to know them. But there was always that underlying tension, the sense that the HOA was watching, ready to pounce on any misstep. It was a constant reminder that while I owned my townhome, I was also part of a larger system with its own rules and regulations. Looking back, I realized that moving into an HOA community was a mixed bag. There were definite perks, but they came with strings attached. It wasn't the warm, welcoming experience I had hoped for, but I was determined to make the best of it. I had a home, a place to call my own, and that was something to be grateful for. So, welcome to the community indeed. It was a bumpy ride, but I was here to stay. I've commented on this in other posts here, but it's a common misconception. HOAs basically are required by local municipalities, city or county, because the city and county doesn't want to do its job and increase infrastructure and then let developers develop. Since there's a housing shortage, instead cities and local municipalities are largely against new development, so they require an HOA as a barrier to development. HOAs are just replacing what cities are supposed to do, and they're run a lot worse: build infrastructure so people can settle down somewhere. Sidewalks, roads, drainage, all the civil engineering basically. Instead, they tell the developer they have to foot the cost and then pass the recurring costs onto that new development once it's done. So you end up with a bunch of unincorporated towns surrounding cities. It's of the single biggest issues when it comes to urban development. Was the letter addressed to you? If it was, it seems that the change of ownership has been processed earlier than expected. This is a great opportunity for you to secure your pool privileges and gain access to important community documents. Make sure to follow up on that, so you can enjoy all the amenities available to residents. If the letter wasn't addressed to you, it's best to reseal it and return it to sender, as the previous owner no longer occupies the residence. This helps ensure that any important communications reach the right person and keeps things organized within the community. Regardless of the situation, good luck. It's unfortunate to be welcomed in such a confusing manner, but you'll get through it. By the way, I'm curious, what kind of motorcycle do you have? It's always exciting to connect over shared interests, especially in a new neighborhood. It would be prudent to have a lawyer send a formal demand letter to address this issue. If the HOA has not provided you with the rules and regulations, they cannot legitimately charge you for non-compliance. This is particularly unjust when you have explicitly requested these documents and were informed that there would be a 2-month wait to receive them. The rules and regulations of an HOA are essential for homeowners to understand their responsibilities and obligations. These documents should be provided to you at the time of closing on the property. Without access to these rules, it is unreasonable and legally questionable for the HOA to impose penalties or fines for any alleged violations. A demand letter from a lawyer can formally articulate your request for the immediate provision of these documents and assert that any charges for non-compliance are invalid until you have had a fair opportunity to review and adhere to the rules. This legal step can often expedite the process and ensure that your rights as a homeowner are protected. In summary, taking legal action by having a lawyer send a demand letter can help resolve this situation efficiently. It underscores the importance of having access to the HOA rules and prevents unjust charges for non-compliance, especially given the unreasonable delay you have already faced. Who knew that a seemingly peaceful neighborhood could turn into a battleground of budget blunders and community chaos? It all started when I moved into this nice little neighborhood a few years back. The houses were well kept, the streets were clean, and there was a real sense of community. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Moving into this charming neighborhood felt like a dream come true, but it soon spiraled into a nightmare of budget mismanagement and HOA chaos. So here's the deal. Our HOA, which is supposed to keep everything running smoothly, has been anything but smooth lately. I don't want to point fingers at the current board. They seem like they're trying their best to clean up a mess they didn't make. But man, the previous board, they really did a number on us. I found out at the meeting tonight that the old board, the one that got kicked out in March, royally screwed up our budget. And now we're all paying the price. Literally, they're jacking up our annual assessment from $400 to $600. When they dropped that bomb, you could hear the collective groan in the room. Now I get it. I mean, I don't like it, but I get it. They explained everything in excruciating detail at the meeting. Apparently, we've got these storm retention ponds that need regular maintenance. It's been in the budget for years, but did the old board bother with it? Nope. Instead, they thought it'd be a great idea to throw community events practically every weekend during summer. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good barbecue as much as the next person, but not at the expense of essential maintenance. The kicker, they drained our reserve account for these shenanigans. We're talking over $130,000 gone just like that. Poof, all because they couldn't manage a budget to save their lives. And now we, the residents, are left holding the bag. It's frustrating as hell, you know. The new board seems okay, I guess. But after what happened with the last bunch, you can bet we're all keeping a close eye on them. They're on a very short leash, and rightfully so. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, you know how it goes. Some of my neighbors were talking about taking legal action against the old board. I mean, it's tempting, right? Make them pay for their incompetence. But here's the thing. As far as we can tell, they didn't actually do anything illegal. They were just really, really bad at their job. So if we sued, we'd probably end up losing more money in legal fees than we'd ever get back. It's a lose-lose situation. So we're stuck. $600 a year doesn't sound too bad when I say it out loud. My parents are in an HOA that charges them that much every 3 months. But it's the principle of the thing, you know. We shouldn't have to pay more because some yahoos couldn't balance a checkbook. The new budget they presented is a real eye-opener. Get this, 80% of it is going towards pond maintenance for the next 30 years. Can you believe it? They're saying we need over $7 million in repairs, all because those knuckleheads neglected it for a few years. It's mind-boggling how quickly things can go south when you're not paying attention. I've been racking my brain trying to think of other options. But honestly, I'm coming up empty. I mean, what can we do? We can't go back in time and undo the damage. We can't magically make $7 million appear out of thin air. So I guess I'm resigned to just accepting the solution the new HOA board has come up with. It's not ideal, but it seems like the only way forward. But you know what keeps nagging at me? What if we just got rid of the HOA altogether? I mean, is that even possible? What would happen if we disbanded it? Would we be better off, or would it create a whole new set of problems? I've been doing some research, and it turns out disbanding an HOA isn't as simple as just voting it out of existence. There are legal implications, property issues to consider, and a whole bunch of red tape to cut through. Plus, who would take care of the common areas? Those ponds aren't going to maintain themselves, and I sure as hell don't want to be responsible for them. And then there's the question of property values. I've heard that homes in HOA communities tend to hold their value better. If we got rid of the HOA, would our home values take a hit? That's not something I'm keen on risking, especially in this economy. So here I am, stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I'm not thrilled about shelling out an extra $200 a year because some people couldn't do their job properly. On the other hand, the alternative seems even worse. At least with the HOA, there's some accountability, now anyway, and a plan to fix things. I've been talking to some of my neighbors about all this. Most of them feel the same way I do, frustrated but resigned. A few are still pretty angry, talking about selling their homes and moving. But where would they go? It seems like every decent neighborhood these days has an HOA. One of my neighbors, Bob, he's been here longer than most of us. He remembers when the HOA was first set up, says it was supposed to protect our property values and keep the neighborhood looking nice. I guess it did that for a while, but somewhere along the line things went off the rails. I've been thinking about getting more involved myself. Maybe run for a position on the board next time there's an opening. At least then I'd have some say in how things are run. But then I remember how much time and effort it must take, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of commitment. Plus, do I really want to be the one everyone blames when things go wrong? It's funny, you know. When I bought this house, I thought the HOA fees were just another bill to pay. I never imagined I'd be losing sleep over storm retention ponds and reserve accounts. But here we are. I guess the silver lining in all this is that it's brought the community together in a way. We're all in the same boat, dealing with the same problems. There's been more communication between neighbors lately, more discussions about what's best for our community. Maybe that's worth something. So for now, I'm going to grit my teeth and pay the increased fees. I'll keep an eye on the new board, make sure they're doing what they promised. And who knows, maybe in a few years, once we've got these ponds sorted out, things will get better. Maybe we'll even be able to have those community events again, just, without bankrupting ourselves in the process. In the meantime, I'll keep dreaming about a world without HOAs, a world where I can paint my front door whatever color I want, where I can let my grass grow an inch too long without getting a nasty letter, and where I don't have to worry about some board mismanaging my money. But until that magical day comes, I guess I'll just have to make the best of it. After all, that's what homeownership is all about, right? Dealing with unexpected problems and hoping things work out in the end. This story is a perfect example of how clueless some HOA boards can be. It's mind-boggling that the previous board thought throwing community events was more important than maintaining essential infrastructure. $130,000 wasted on summer barbecues? Seriously? It's like they were playing Monopoly with real money. No wonder residents are stuck footing the bill now. If they can't manage a budget, they shouldn't be in charge of anything. Good luck with that $600 assessment. It's just a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Isn't it ironic how the HOA was supposed to create a sense of community but ended up tearing it apart instead? The new board might be trying to fix things, but the damage is done. Residents are left feeling resentful and betrayed. The idea that we need an HOA to keep our neighborhood nice is a joke. If people cared about their homes and community, we wouldn't need these bureaucratic overlords. Disbanding the HOA might just be the best option to let people take responsibility for their own properties. Honestly, the idea of pursuing legal action against the previous board is laughable. It's like trying to get blood from a stone. They didn't do anything illegal, just incredibly irresponsible. So we're stuck paying for their incompetence while they walk away scot-free. This is what happens when you let amateurs run the show. If the residents can't hold these boards accountable, what's the point of having an HOA at all? Sounds like a recipe for disaster, and it's the homeowners who end up suffering.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.